What's up, mi gente? Welcome to my Mondays podcast, Let's Overthink It, with your host, Elefante Blanco, with lo que está caliente in the world of psychology. Thank you for tuning in and taking some time out of your busy schedule to be with me today. So what are we going to be talking about today? Okay. Oops. What is this? Oh, something just landed on me, just out of nowhere. Oh, we got, okay, Argentina. They got a game going on right now against Switzerland. Who will win? You know, this is getting close to the semifinals. Brazil is gone, Portugal is gone. So now we got to go for our brothers and sisters. Well, brothers, because it's actually the men's team. The brothers of Argentina. So wishing them the best. The game is not over yet. You got it right there in the background. So we'll see what happens with that. So, but I'm focused on this. I actually paused it so that I can hang out with you a little bit today. But today's topic is it's about psychology, and it's about depression. Basically, that there's really no convincing evidence that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance. So as always, before we jump onto the topic, we're going to be starting out with a joke. All right? So we're on that theme of psychology. You ready? All right. So why was the guy that got his foot amputated depressed? Because he felt defeated. Oh man, they're just getting better and better every time. If you got any jokes, send them my way, and I'll consider them for the next episode, for the next podcast. Okay. All right. So let's just jump right to the topic. There's really no convincing evidence that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance, and most people still don't know that. And you don't really have to take my word for it, but you can take the research words for it. The scientific community have known all along, especially depression researchers, they have known that this has been the case. But, us regular people have been told by the experts, and let's be real, really by the pharmaceutical industry, that it is really caused by a chemical imbalance. They'll do it through cute commercials, like the one for Zoloft. And not too long ago, I think you remember that one, right? Where there's like a blob bouncing around, and it kind of gradually got happy, and people were like, okay, if I can be that blob, I can probably get happy as well and not be depressed. So also the Prozac commercials, I think those were the two main antidepressants that were really, really, really popular, like, again, Prozac and Zoloft. And they came around, around the 1990s, I believe. So, but before the 90s, people are wondering, how, who, where did this idea come about? Well, it really started in the 1960s with a hypothesis that low serotonin was the reason for depression. But it was a hypothesis. That's really all it was. It wasn't even a theory. And the difference, right? You have the hypotheses where it's really not tested. It's more like an idea, almost like a a prediction. That's the word. But a theory is actually tested. There's scientific evidence. There's consensus in the community. So this became in the 1960s as a hypothesis. So that's how the low serotonin hypothesis came about, my friends. Can you believe it? Say what? So when they're talking about a chemical imbalance, they're talking about serotonin. So just in case you don't know what serotonin is, it is really a hormone in our bodies that acts like the mailman. Basically brings the mail to your house, and that's what they call neurotransmitters, because they're transmitting, they're sending signals between neurons in your body. So what does that have to do with our brains and serotonin? Well, serotonin is that neurotransmitter. It's going from neuron to neuron to make you feel good. And when you really think about it, it's almost like the neurons are having intercourse. I mean, so yeah, I mean, really, it's kind of like that. I'm sure Freud has a lot to say about me making that comparison. so, so it's going from neuron to neuron. You got the neuron, you got the little space in between the neurons. It's called a synapse, and then the receptors. But seriously, think about it. If you have two neurons in your brain, and the neurotransmitter serotonin goes over the synapse, that space, which is a little gap between the neurons, and then it penetrates the receptors in the other neuron. And what happens next? You feel good. So this is what triggers the positive mental sensations associated with your mood. So I hope that was clear. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you add them in the comments below. So now the problem is that the fact that you feel good is not just because of that process, because the research done by Dr. Joanna Moncrieff from the University College of London, she's a psychiatrist, you know. You would think that she would be more inclined in prescribing medication, you know, instead of making these statements and research that she's done. That research showed that even people who got more serotonin still were depressed. People with low serotonin still were depressed. And those with no additional serotonin, just their own baseline, were still depressed. You know, and this is what became sort of breaking news for a lot of us regular folks in 2022, when Dr. Moncrieff published her research. She did it through a meta-analysis, which is basically, you know, grabbing a big chunk of all the research done in the topic and provide the results. You know, she went back all the way back to the 1960s, looking at all the past research and the data, and she took her time. Like I said, the depression scientific community knew these results already, okay? And it basically showed that it is inconclusive that low serotonin causes depression. So here's Dr. Moncrieff in her own words.
Just to start with why I wrote the book, I wrote it because the public have been fundamentally misinformed about the nature of depression and about what we know about its associations with brain chemical processes. So there's been this story around for a long time that depression is caused by a lack of serotonin in the brain or some sort of abnormality of the serotonin system. Whereas in fact, there is very little and certainly not a compelling or convincing evidence base for this idea. And yet millions of people have decided to take antidepressants because they were told that links between serotonin and depression were an established fact, or they were led to believe that in one way or another. So I wanted to tell people that these links are not an established fact. We do not know whether there is any connection between serotonin and depression, so that people can make more informed choices about whether to take antidepressants or not, how to understand the nature of their emotional feelings, and how to manage them.
Yep. She is right on with that. Really concur with her and all that. And she took the time. She took the time in doing the meta-analysis, and that is what came out. So I don't want you to, I do want to say this because I think it is very important. I don't want you to feel blamed, judged, or ashamed or anything like that. But I also want you to know the facts, and you're not alone. I mean, do you know how many people are experiencing depression in the U.S. and around the world? Around the world, over 100 million people are experiencing depression. In the U.S. is over 43 million people. So you're not alone going through this. And just because this research showed that low serotonin was not the culprit does not mean that you don't have depression, because it still has a cause. And it may not be due to a chemical imbalance, but it is due to an emotional state. It is due to an emotional state. And how do you get to that emotional state? By feeding it. And how do you give birth to an emotion? By thinking. So, that's always that I always share with my clients in session. And I asked them, and they find it kind of weird that I come up with this, and I say, do you know that you can give birth to an emotion? Especially the male clients are like, what are you talking about? Well, by thinking. They'll be like, how? By thinking. So right now, if you want to give birth to an emotion, you can do it. If you want to feel happiness, you do it by thinking about things that made you happy in the past, a song or a music, a video. And you do it and you see another one and you give it another thought and you just keep mounting it and mounting it and mounting it. And before you know it, you're feeling pretty happy, pretty content. Same thing with sadness. Think about something that made you sad in the past, and again and again and again, different things. And on top of that, feed your mind with the local news and you'll be sad. So going back to what I was saying, that's how you get that emotional state of depression, is by feeding it. So, and here's the kicker. Sometimes it's not what's happening in the present that has impacted your depression for that day. And I think this is where Freud would agree with me. Your subconscious has a vote too. Your subconscious. So there are things in your subconscious that affect your conscious, and many times you can see them. That subconscious part when you're dreaming, when you're having a dream in other times. So it does affect your conscious without you knowing it. That's why it's called the subconscious. So it sounds a little bit unfair, but that's just the reality. And I think maybe you heard about subliminal messages. Subliminal, right? You see an ad for a burger, and there may be like a hidden messaging in it, and also overt ones, like nice and juicy. That basically, whenever you're at the supermarket, you're feeling like this urge to buy burger patties, or you drive by a fast food place or a restaurant, you want to get the burger when you get there, or you have other cravings for whatever it may be. And that's just one example, of the way the subconscious can work on you. And you and I have fallen a victim to it, which is not necessarily a bad thing. A cheeseburger is not a bad thing to me. But it explains that the subconscious is always playing a role in our minds, in addition to the conscious mind. And all of that together can definitely impact your depression. So keep that in mind. Some people will say, well, why is it that my Prozac kind of works for me? Isn't it because of serotonin? Well, not necessarily. What the research has found, if we can take your time later on and see Dr. Moncrieff's research, is that those drugs really act like a mind-altering thing. Like the same thing, you can compare it to, like when you're drinking, maybe if you're drinking alcohol, it definitely can lower your anxiety, kind of give you a more calm mood. Coffee, coffee can definitely alter your mind as well, or weed if you smoke that. So it can do that, but it's not necessarily because of serotonin. And many times, the antidepressants just really numb your feelings. It doesn't feel good. It's not a good thing, I don't think. So I'll share this with you. As a matter of fact, I heard a psychiatrist say that, and I think it's the same psychiatrist that worked with Dr. Moncrieff, because I see the last name is Dr. Horowitz. And he said that if you grab a few antidepressants and chew them, but don't swallow them, just kind of swish them around your mouth would actually become numb. So not only would your mouth become numb, but these antidepressants can numb your feelings. That's wow. I mean, I've never taken antidepressants, but I trust Dr. Horowitz when he says that. So yeah, Prozac may make some people feel good because of that, but also because of the placebo effect. I know a lot of you out there have heard about that. You have these expectations that now because you're in some kind of treatment, that something good is going to come out of it. So it happened to me too. When I'm feeling bad, and as soon as the tip of my right toe crosses the hospital door, I'm starting to feel more calm, more secure, but not completely well. But you know what I mean. You start kind of getting that feeling of some positive expectations management. So now, having said all that, how about we finish by talking about what really seems to cause depression? Since we just said what doesn't cause it, let's talk about what does. And a few tips, and I'm also going to go over a few tips to improve your depressive situation so that you're not feeling so depressed. This is not medical advice, this is not a client doctor relationship or anything like that. So I will refer you back to the initial disclaimer at the beginning of the video. Just some tips. So I've already mentioned that depression is caused by an emotional state that is fed by the conscious and the subconscious mind, but also your external environment and how you're processing that external environment, right? That makes sense? When you look at the world statistics on depression, there are some repetitive things that cause it. And I'll share some of them with you right now is poverty, illness, job insecurity, relational conflicts, lack of social interaction, and loneliness. So how can you improve your depression? Well, the answer is by improving your emotional state. And how do you improve your emotional state? By giving birth to positive emotions. And how do you give birth to positive emotions? By thinking. Here's the power right here, up here. So like I said before, think about past positive memories. But what can also change your emotional state is by doing. Not just by thinking, but by doing, by taking action. Like I said, play a song or that you love, or music. Go for a walk. Do some regular exercise. I need to apply that to myself. The exercise part. Intentionally read jokes. You know what I mean? Listen to your favorite comedian of choice if you have one. Just listen to my jokes. Maybe that can help a little bit. Try to sleep and eat well. Stay socially connected. Even if you can do that virtually, try to do that. We humans are social beings. See a therapist. They'll probably also recommend that you do some mindfulness exercises like breathing deeply and meditation. This is not necessarily religious. For those of you who do not affiliate with any religion, this is more like a physical experience that can really help bring down your anxiety, relax a little bit, and it really centers you, on your own world. It kind of grounds you, it empowers you to do mindfulness. So it kind of lets you take back the reins, honestly. And then for me, I think the most important one is to get to the root of the matter, or the roots, by being introspective. Being introspective. That's not the word of the day, but maybe it should be. Introspection, by thinking deeply about what is causing your depression. Take 1 hour, 2 hours, turn everything off, take some notes. And I think, to be honest with you, it would be better if you do it with a therapist, because they can help you, kind of guide you in the process, because it can sometimes be a little bit difficult when you start discovering things that are uncomfortable that can actually bring you to that healing. It can happen, and it has happened. It has happened to some people that I personally know. So I think that take those steps, take those tips, and I'll finish with this. Do you remember when you were younger and your parents or whoever took care of you probably told you, don't be hanging out with the wrong crowd, don't surround yourself with the wrong people? And you know what? Sometimes those people can be your thoughts. So what's the moral of the story? Surround yourself with the right people. You're in control. All right, so before I go, I always like to finish the podcast with a word of the day. So today's word of the day is euthymia. Euthymia. Have you heard of it? Do you know what it is? I won't tell you, because as I always say, like my teacher used to say, if I tell you, you won't remember it. But if you look it up, you'll remember it for the rest of your life. So God bless you, mi gente. Take care.